figures, the first released by the CES since the former government stopped the practice in March 81, clearly paint a depressing picture, with over 26,000 registered for unemployment at Hunter Region CES offices. Apparently this is some 13% of the local workforce and obviously worse than the national average. Although not an accurate comparison, this contrasts sharply with the June 81 census figures, which revealed around 11,000 out of work in this area. At that stage, about 6% of the workforce. Figures for Gosford and Wyong also show a major increase in unemployment. As in the Hunter, there is a noticeable increase in unemployed males. The CES figures do vary from the Bureau of Statistics, but they are regarded as an accurate trend indicator. How accurate a picture of the unemployed in this area do you regard these figures?
Oh, it's not a entirely accurate picture, because the figures take into account people that are looking for improved positions. It also takes into account people that haven't registered. It doesn't take into account people that haven't registered with us. So the figure is taken from our records in the CES, and it's as accurate as we can make it, but of course with those constraints.
Would you give it any degree of accuracy?
Oh, it'd be very, very difficult, Jim, to determine that because of the factors I just mentioned to you.
For the figures to become significant, they'll need to be released on a regular basis. Do you imagine that will now happen?
Well, we don't know. Those figures were taken out for the summit meeting, and of course it would be up to the Minister to decide whether they would be issued on a regular basis.
I've been president of the division for 16 years, and I think this is the hardest decision we've ever had to make. It's unfortunate. We've got it's an association with a long history that's been built up by fine men and fine referees, but it's all concerned with the assessment of referees, and the fact that some referees weren't prepared to accept the assessments and that was made of them. And I guess in any form of walk of life where people are making subjective assessments on other people, it's human nature not to accept that, I guess, and that's what's happened basically.
And the referees withdrew their services, so you disbanded the association?
They told us if we didn't appoint referees as per the way that they wanted it done, they'd withdraw their services.
What happens next? Well, I know the appeal is on shortly.
Right, they've appealed to the Country Rugby League about, on our decision to disband the association, but I believe that we still have about 13 or 14 members of the Referees Association prepared to run. I would say that with retired referees and so on, we'll get the games on Sunday. Hope.
Good morning. Well, it looks like being not too good a day for the board riders. It's nice and sunny out here at the moment, quite cool though with southerly winds. Waves around 1.5, occasionally 1.8 metres at the open beaches in town, but conditions very choppy, bumpy and very messy indeed at the moment. Conditions aren't going to improve during the day, the wind's going to drop a little, and conditions may be a little better by late this afternoon. I'm afraid the open beaches aren't going to look much better at all. If you're keen on looking for waves, Stockton, Nobbies and Blacksmiths, and if you think about going for a swim, strong sweeps to the north, bad rips at all of our city beaches, between the flags only. As far as the forecast is concerned today, of course we have that low pressure system just off the coast of New South Wales in the southwest Tasman, and the forecast for today, a strong wind warning is current, a cool day with showers chiefly about the coast, lengthy sunny periods westwards. Southwest to southerly winds at 40 to 60 kilometres per hour on the seaboard, easing to 30 to 50 kilometres per hour by tonight. Moderate to rough seas on a moderate swell. Newcastle heading for a top of 18 degrees, quite cool, and Scone 1 degree cooler at 17. And the outlook for Sunday, cool, showers, south to southeasterly winds. High tide coming up at 10:30 this morning, 1.5 metres. Low tide at 20 minutes past 4 this afternoon at 0.4 of a metre. Well, that's our look at the surf and weather this morning. Not too good a day for the board riders. Conditions may improve a little by tomorrow, and definitely not a safe day for the swimmers. That swell getting a little bit bigger. And the Cooter Lines Egan Surf Classic on this weekend. Boys are meeting here at Dixon Park this morning. It looks like the venue's going to be Nobbies at this stage, although it's a little bit hard to say. Should be a great contest, lots of good surfers from the Newcastle Central Coast area, 4 APSA winners and Australian representatives. a great weekend of surfing coming up. If you've got a chance, slip up and see that one. Have a great weekend. For now, it's back to Alex.
Well, conditions aren't very good at all. There's a big sea running and a very big swell. I would suggest if you're going to go fishing today, forget it. Unless you're going to fish in the sheltered areas, that's say Nelson Bay, in the lake itself, you would certainly get good catches of bream. I'd reckon up at the boulders tonight. Now you've got a high tide around about midnight tonight, so you'll have a making tide all the time. Should be okay. That's if you're keen enough. It'll be very cold, I should imagine. The conditions outside are just completely right off. There's a big current still running. This current has been going for about 3 months now, and it's really hopeless. So we've got to hope for better things for next weekend, which is the long weekend. And if you're going to go outside, that is on the next long weekend, I'd still only be fishing in close. I wouldn't be fishing out wide, because the remnants of the current, let's say it drops off, you're better off getting in close to have a go at it. Now, if you're going to go in the lake area itself, I wouldn't go too far in. I would go hang around the headlands itself. You'll find that the bream and big blackfish especially will come in for shelter during these rough conditions we're having. You would even fish probably in as far as round the bridge area and still get good catches of bream. That's at Swansea Channel. And up the bay, well, I'd reckon in as far as Barnes Rocks should be okay. If you did persist and want to have a fish around the foreshores here, the only spot I could suggest would be the Soldiers Bars. That's about it for today. Good afternoon.
If the camp is any indication, maths has come a long way since the old days of times tables. Students at the camp are exploring the many uses of mathematics through activities such as kite making, orienteering, problem solving and computing. 96 primary students from all over the Hunter region, some from as far afield as Gloucester and Murrurundi, are taking part. They were invited to attend after achieving outstanding results in last year's Hunter Maths competition run by the Newcastle Permanent Building Society. According to one of the organisers, Mr. Fred Bishop, the aim of the camp is to increase the children's interest in mathematics by simply making learning enjoyable. The RSL's auditorium was filled to capacity, with servicemen and civilians gathered in honour of those that fell at Gallipoli. The service was attended by RAAF and Army personnel, as well as local police and ambulancemen. Chaplain Fuller from the RAAF base at Williamtown conducted the ceremony. After offering prayers for Australia's war dead, Chaplain Fuller told the Assembly that the ANZAC should be remembered all year and not just during commemoration services. He said ANZAC Day is a farce if the ideals of freedom, nationhood and peace fought for by the ANZACs are not upheld in day-to-day life. While the ex-servicemen gathered in honour of their dead comrades, the combined RSL youth clubs of Newcastle held a demonstration day at Spears Point Park. The purpose of the day was to show the public the numerous activities which RSL youth clubs offer the region's young people. Demonstrations included boxing, marching, judo and jazz ballet. The highlight of the day, however, was a simulated rescue performed by the crewmen of the Westpac rescue helicopter. The display, which demonstrated the rescue team's procedure at sea, went well, all except for one slight hitch.
The Hunter District Water Board has released a hefty document detailing its water supply plans into the next century. The first step is the extension of Grahamstown storage area by raising the wall and adjusting the spillway. The work, estimated to cost $11 million, will boost the dam's storage capacity to 194,000 megalitres. Despite a 20% drop in water consumption because of the users' pay system, the new work at Grahamstown will be required by 1992. Mr. Peter Michel, water planning engineer, explains why the board has decided to extend Grahamstown.
We investigated a variety of ways in which we could get this additional water and decided that on economic and engineering grounds the best method was to go back to a source we already had and expand our Grahamstown Lake system.
The next major proposal is Tilligra Dam on the Williams River. The board proposes to build the dam in 2 stages with an ultimate storage capacity of 450,000 megalitres, much bigger than any of the 3 other storage areas. There are a number of problems associated with this development. First, the controversy surrounding the loss of thousands of hectares of agricultural land on the site of the dam. And second, government approval. The board's other major supply plans include $69 million worth of headworks, including work on the treatment plant at Tomigo and the major pipeline system to the Waratah Reservoir.
The entwined aircraft rested haphazardly on the Cessnock Aerodrome tarmac this morning following yesterday afternoon's freak accident. A propeller from the top aircraft narrowly missed the head of the pilot but damaged the top of the cabin extensively. The 2 trainee pilots escaped injury. The pilot of the Piper Warrior was practising an emergency landing at right angles to the runway and so didn't see the long approach of the underlying Cherokee Arrow. Chief Pilot of the Nationwide Aviation Space Academy, Mr. Bob Lauriton, takes up the story from there.
The aircraft on the bottom with the red stripes on it, that had come back with a student from a solo cross country and landed, and had just settled on the ground, and the second aircraft that you can see now on top of it came down, settled on top of it. The bottom guy I knew about it was a great pile of noise starting to come from the back seat, and it gnawed its way up along with the prop running, and then they speared off the side of the runway and ended up pretty well in this position where they are now.
The Newcastle City Council chambers took on the air of a courtroom today when the Lord Mayor, Alderman Joy Cummings, welcomed Justice Cripps to the city. Justice Cripps, who has served on Newcastle's District Court, is now a judge in the Environment and Planning Court. He is also the chairman of the Law Week Committee. According to Justice Cripps, Law Week is designed to educate the community about the important role the law plays in people's lives. That education, he says, is vital.
A recent survey that was conducted in about 1980 showed that approximately 70% of the people in our society don't even understand their legal institutions, and the same percentage, 70%, say that it's very difficult to communicate with lawyers because they don't understand the lawyers' language.
With so few people understanding the system, do you think the law is really working here?
I think it is not working as well as it should be. I think it works quite well, but it could work a lot better if it was more understandable.
Yesterday, 2 women, Greta Waits and Alison Rowe of New Zealand, jointly held the world's women's marathon record of 2 hours, 25 minutes and 29 seconds. They had shared the record for barely 24 hours. In the Boston Marathon, Benoit ran the race in 2 hours, 22 minutes and 43 seconds, a new record by almost 3 minutes. pre-race favourite Gray Meyer of the United States won the event, although he was well outside the men's world record. More than 1 million spectators lined the route to watch the race, running cool and cloudy conditions. For Meyer, it was his second attempt at the Boston Marathon. He finished 13th in 1979.
Well, it's an extraordinary play. It's probably one of the most successful Australian plays ever written. It's been to London and New York. Only 3 Australian plays have ever played on Broadway, and this is one of those 3. And it won awards over there, awards in Australia, and it made Gordon Chater an international star.
Do you think it will appeal to audiences here in the Hunter Valley?
Oh, I'm sure it will, because it's about man's inhumanity to man, but in the midst of it are great lumps of comedy.
Bruce, my pet, how nice. Why, you filthy animal. Listen, I can't talk. I've got someone coming. No, stupid, a new pupil. Listen, pet, you take them when you can get them at $8 a pop. Didn't bat a vocal organ. They never do, not in Toorak, pet. It's a young boy who stutters. They're my speciality. No, Bruce, stutterers. Oh, you'll like this. The mother's name is Franklin. Guess what they called the poor kid. God, you're a bore, Bruce.